Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I hope you are all doing very well. I want to just touch base with you and let you know what's going on here. So now it's around the end of the first week of December 2019, or the beginning of the second week of December 2019. And so we find ourselves nearing the end of the year. Time flies, does it not, my friends? And so there are still some weeks left before the end of 2019, so there's still some time left. We're not quite at the end yet, but we are nearing the end. And as part of that, for purposes of this particular YouTube channel, I want to let you know that just as I did for the Criterion releases from last year, 2018, what I plan to do is, once I get the final releases from this year, the final two that are going to be released later this week, I think, Until the End of the World and Old Joy. So once those arrive here in the mail, it does take a little bit of time after the release date in North America. It does take time for them to travel to Tokyo, but it usually takes about a week, maybe 10 days at most of the time, if there's no issue. So once I receive those, then I will look through those and I will examine them with as much care as I am able to. And then once that is over, then I will be in a position to be able to start making videos where I will just talk about my own personal feelings and views on the year that was in the world of Criterion. And I'll try also to put together my favorite releases from Criterion from this year. I must admit that at the moment I am working with the films that I have already received, and as of today, I'm very happy to say that I've just caught up with everything from Criterion, so I just was able to finish with all the new releases, so I am up to date, and I've reviewed the contents of the supplements at least once through, with everything that I've received over the course of the year, and everything I've purchased over the course of the year. And so that meant that today I was able to go through, for example, the Blu-ray release of the 4K restoration of the film Tunes of Glory, which is a very interesting it's a very interesting presentation. If you haven't seen this film, I strongly recommend it. And also I was finally managed to watch this film and go through the supplements here as well. So The Story of Temple Drake, which is Spine 1006, and I don't want to say too much, except this is a very complex, and it's a kind of a it's a kind of a very direct presentation of some pretty difficult themes. And so I think it was quite a stunning work, and all held together by the electrifying central performance by Miriam Hopkins as the character Temple Drake. Just a really whirlwind of a film, and I'm still trying to get my thoughts collected about it, because I'm still quite moved by it, to the point I'm not able to articulate myself that clearly yet. But and I was able to go through the supplements here, which were really great. In particular, there is the Mick LaSalle interview, where he talks about, or gives an overview of the history of the sort of what's known as the pre-code era, and gives an overview of this cinema history prior to and during the the film, the story of Temple Drake, and the kinds of issues that arose with respect to the contents and subject matter, and its relationship to censorship during this time of the U.S. cinema. Really great. And then there is an equally great interview with Imogen Sarah Smith, where she is talking specifically about this film, the story of Temple Drake, and its significance, and certain details, again, tied to a historical context, but also tied to a kind of narrative development and a subtle exploration of a particular character in the film, Temple Drake, and Imogen Sarah Smith really gets into specific details of that and production history, as well as narrative tricks and certain details that make this watching of the film quite a rewarding experience. So and there are other great supplements here as well, but those two supplements in particular were really ones that I found quite illuminating. So I was overall very pleased with this particular release, and I think I might have expressed some negativity about the recent release of All About Eve and the issue with the rubber dots and the kind of certain, you have to be very careful about opening it. You don't want to damage anything in there and all that. So and I think that was a little bit of a shame, of course, but I don't want that to necessarily or overly affect my view of the rest of the year. And I think as an example of that, we have this, the most recent release from them that I've received, which is the story of Temple Drake. And if this is anything to go by, I think that the year is very strong. It has been a very strong year. Even before, I didn't have a chance to speak about them, but I was able to catch up with the film Cold War, for instance. And my goodness, I was just, I was stunned, absolutely stunned. And I was able to catch up with films that I had seen earlier in my life. So I was able to catch up with Betty Blue, for instance, and Now Voyager as well. And even early in the year, of course, I didn't have a chance to talk at all about the great releases from earlier in the year. There were so many great ones. Things that come to mind immediately, of course, are releases like War and Peace, or the Coker trilogy, of course, or the Wanda from earlier in the year, and others, as well as Blue Velvet, for instance, or Polyester, for instance, and Clooney Brown, and other. And again, I'm just. These are all coming from the top of my head, so I don't have a list in front of me. But the point is that this was such a strong year that I think I am really having a difficult time trying to put together a sort of list of my favorites, let's say a top 5 favorite list or something like that. Even a top 5 I think is incredibly difficult, because I'm finding I'm not going to mention what they are now. I want to save the surprises for later. But I'm finding that I'm writing a title in for, or a release in for number 1 and number 2 and then number 3. And then a minute later, I'll just rearrange it, and maybe I'll add new ones and bring in new ones that weren't in the original list, and my list will change. And then even a minute later, that list will then change it to something else completely. So I'm finding that it's a very, very difficult year in terms of trying to maybe consolidate my thoughts, or maybe, to put it in a better way, to try to arrange my views in a way that is in a kind of, even in a purely subjective sense, quantified in some kind of list format, in order to be able to make a video presentation here on YouTube. So and it's a great feeling to have, too, this idea of struggling with trying to figure out what was your favorite release from 2019. I mean, it's a great struggle to have, I think, because it just goes to show the strength of this year, 2019. And I'm very, very impressed, very impressed. And so there were some really great gems that came through. And there were some films that I might have mentioned in passing in some videos as well. I do want to press one more time. I want to urge anyone out there who hasn't seen, for instance, The Cloud-Capped Star. I really want to urge you to at least consider it and to give it a chance, because I think it really is one of the... It's almost like akin to a cinematic miracle. It's like a miracle that unfolds before one's very eyes. It's really poetic and lovely, and also it can be tragic and brutal, but also very charged with emotional warmth and feeling. And so that is the stuff of greatness in cinema, I think. I hope that film reaches as many people as possible, because I think it really deserves it. And the Criterion release is just fantastic. So that might be an indication, perhaps, that you might be hearing more about the film The Cloud-Capped Star later on this month from me. So I'll just leave it at that. And not to mention also Godzilla. There is the Godzilla release as well, and I tried to speak about that as best as possible. And there were other releases, so many to sift through and to try to focus on. And so it's just, I find myself in the position of not being able to really prepare a final list. I'm still revising it. So, but that's the fun part of these things, and I hope that you will forgive the indulgence of mine and just allow me to follow through with this. And I hopefully it'll engender some conversations, and hopefully you might find some enjoyment out of it as well. And of course, it is a two-way street, as always, because I would love to hear what you have to say about this year as well. So hopefully this will create the opportunity for me to be able to hear from you what your favorite titles were from this year. And that's something that is very, very important to me. I hope I'm able to make myself clear about how important I think that is. It's really important for me to be able to, how should I put it? I really want to make you feel like you can say anything about how you feel about certain films, and your feelings and passions and your excitement about certain titles. And I feel it's that enthusiasm that really helps me to keep going with this YouTube channel. So I hope to hear from as many of you as possible between now and the end of the year about this year 2019, and hopefully we can go from there with some conversations about this thing which we all love, which is cinema. So with that, my friends, that is just a kind of update as to where I am at the moment, and I just wanted to share with you the fact also that I was able to finish the story of Temple Drake today, and I would recommend it strongly if you haven't seen it yet. Well, it's been very difficult to see up to this particular Criterion release, and so I think this is another indication of how strong the year was, and I think this release is quite strong as well, for the reasons I mentioned earlier. So I would strongly recommend this, actually, if this part of cinematic history from the 1930s is up your alley. And even not, I think it's a very interesting glimpse into this aspect of cinematic history. So well worth considering at the very least. So that is where I am at the moment right now. And so once again, as soon as I receive those last handful of Criterion releases from this year, I will then begin to start making videos in earnest about the year that was 2019. And then we can begin to think about the new year, 2020, and all the new possibilities that await us all. So With that, my friends, I will just leave you, and I hope you are all doing well and you are having a great day wherever you are in the world. So please take good care of yourselves and your family and friends. I hope everyone is safe and happy. And with that, my friends, I hope you are watching a lot of great movies. Take good care of yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon. So until we meet again, my dear friends, be well and cheers.